Welcome back for Module 4.8. Today we're taking a look at was the United States justified in its acquisition of New Mexico? Some identify, manifest destiny, 54, 40, or fight the Walker Tariff, spot resolutions, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, and the Wilmot Proviso. Focus question, to what extent was the war with Mexico justified? To what extent, how much or how little, justified, right or wrong? Okay, so, and I don't want any, light stuff. Come on, guys, you know better. We need to put some meat in the bones of this, of these responses. Lately, they've been pretty skimpy, and I don't like it. So, let's dig right in. President James K. Polk. Little Hickory from Tennessee. Second president from Tennessee. He was nicknamed Little Hickory to bring back kind of the memories of Andrew Jackson. Polk was the dark horse candidate in 1844. Nobody thought he would be elected. Everybody thought this was going to be Henry Clay's year, but they liked the idea that he was putting out there a manifest destiny. They like the idea that, we're an expanding nation. All that stuff that Clay is talking about, tariffs, internal improvements and all that's not sexy. Whereas taking over land, expanding the country, going to the Pacific Ocean, that is something that people like. That's something that it resonates with. And Polk is going to be able to become president from that. So he has a democratic agenda, and he's working vigorously to fulfill an office. Polk is probably the most powerful of the presidents from this era of bad presidents, this era of weak presidents. He's probably the most powerful in the era of weak presidents. He reduces the tariff. Okay, they don't want that, so he gets the Walker Tariff passed. Reestablishes the independent treasury. There is no central bank. He fights vigorously against the central bank, and they deposit their money in a lot of these small regional banks. And he is dead set on expansion. He wants to settle the Oregon dispute. We got to remember the 54-40 or fight slogan from the campaign. And he also wants to get California. Getting California is going to be symbolic because that means that we are going to, extend all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and California is going to be a very, very rich land. A lot of great farmland out in California, and that'll also open up a lot of very good ports that we can use to access the Pacific Ocean. So that's another reason that expands trade, and that also expands the economic base of the country, as well as being a symbolic victory for power. On the domestic front, okay, in 1846, he gets the Walker Tariff passed, and that lowers the protective tariff from 32% to 25%. So that's a 7% reduction in the tariff. He reestablishes the independent treasury, so we don't have any central bank. So Democrats are happy with Polk. They reduce that tariff. There's no central bank. Democrats are happy with this, and of course the Whigs are not. Over in Oregon, okay, so this is a map of Oregon here. Today we have this line being the border of Oregon, and everything up here is Canada. What Polk was contending during the election, he said 54-40 or fight. Now this is the 54-40 line up here. So Polk said, we are either going to have all of Oregon or we're going to fight Britain for it. Despite all the bluster, Polk goes into negotiations, and they actually settle on the 49th parallel. So even though he goes 54-40 or fight, they don't fight. They get this part of Oregon ceding that part to the British, but that does settle that. And now we don't have issues with two different countries. We're going to have issues with one country. And that issue, of course, is going to be Mexico. Now, Mexico does not like us too much right now because of everything with Texas. We annexed Texas in 1844. That is going to get the Mexicans really, really upset. They are going to hate us. They're going to say Texas or Tejas is ours, and you just basically stole it. So, to add insult to injury, Polk is going to send John Slidell to Mexico with an offer to buy California for $25 million in 1845. And he also wants to settle the border dispute with Texas, which is now part of America, and Mexico's really upset about that. So you got to basically understand the Mexican perspective. The Mexicans are there, and they're not too happy at all with Mr. Polk, because Texas has been annexed, and they consider Texas their land, and they kind of feel like they got swindled out of it. Now they're coming in here, and they want more of our land? You got to be freaking kidding me. Goodbye. So they send Mr. Slidell packing. Of course, this is going to lead to more issues. Now, let's kind of go to Texas. Now, we think of Texas as the purple here. The Mexicans contended that Texas was this, okay? The Mexicans are not happy about this. Mexicans aren't happy about any kind of Texas independence, but they're willing to recognize the Republic of Texas being this little bit, with its border on the Nueces River, which is right here. The Texans say the border of Texas is the Rio Grande River down here. Now, after this is where it gets complicated, okay? So after Slidell gets sent packing, Polk is going to say that Texas ends at the Rio Grande River, not the Rio Nueces. Then he sends Zachary Taylor with 4,000 troops south of the Nueces River into this disputed territory. They actually are going to be there for a little bit, and finally, the Mexicans are going to attack the American forces in the disputed territory between the Nueces and the Rio Grande. Polk uses this as all of the provocation that he needs. And in May of 1846, he goes to Congress and he declares that American blood has been spilled on American soil. Reminder that American soil is this disputed territory between the Nueces and the Rio Grande that he sent troops into. So he's saying American blood has been spilled on American soil and that we need to go to war with Mexico because they have not paid their debts and because they insulted our man John Slidell. The country erupts in war fever. Everybody's like, American blood spilled on American soil. No, we won't have this war with Mexico. Down with Mexico. We got to go and get those Mexicans. This is America. They can't do this to us. There was one congressman by the name of Abraham Lincoln who stood up in Congress and said, so, Mr. Polk, where exactly was the blood shed? So it's not like everybody is completely, caught up in this. There are some people that have cooler heads that think, wait a minute, a fast one is being pulled on the American people because, yeah, we kind of provoked this. We sent our troops into this disputed area, and now we're using that provocation as an act of war. Yeah, that's going to actually cause some issues. So not everybody's going to be on board with this. But war fever is going to sweep the country. Both sides are going to get up in arms. Polk wanted California. Americans want more Western land. The Southerners want more slave states. Basically, everybody's licking their chops in Mexico. So the Mexicans, on the other hand, they're getting tired. They're getting sick and tired of being bossed around too, and they want to teach their northern bullies a lesson. And they threaten to invade and free slaves. Most Americans, took President Polk's word for it that American blood had been spilled on American soil and saw America and saw Mexico as the aggressor, and America did nothing wrong. Once the war began, basically our generals are going to run roughshod all over the Mexicans. We're going to wipe the map with them. Two generals of note are Old Rough and Ready Zach Taylor and Old Fuss and Feathers Winfield Scott. Zach Taylor is going to go on to become president. Winfield Scott is going to go on, and he's going to be one of the big organizers with the Civil War. They basically beat Santa Anna's army. They roughed them up quite a bit. And the war is not going to last very long. When they cornered Santa Anna down around Mexico City, the Americans forced the Mexicans to sign the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And this comes in 1848. Mexican confirmed that America possessed Texas to the Rio Grande River. On top of that, the United States gained all land west of the Pacific Ocean, including California. So, this is what we mean by New Mexico. If we go back to this map, we got all this. That all used to be part of Mexico. We got it all. All that. So we basically took half of Mexico. We took half their country. Mexico used to be 2 times bigger than it is now. We took half of it. But we want to, say that, we're not awful people. We understand that, you got some bills to pay or whatever. So, you know how we offered $25 million for California at first? Well, after we kicked the snot out of them and take all their land, we gave them $15 million plus another $3 million in damages. So, yeah, there is the Mexican-American War. And the aftermath of this thing is going to be pretty bad as well. So, the Whigs opposed the war and the Mexican Cession. The treaty is still going to pass on a vote of 38 to 14. At the beginning of the war, Polk offered to pay $25 million for California. He ended up getting the entirety of the Mexican Cession, or 1/2 of the territory of Mexico, for the cool sum of $18,250,000, and a cost of 13,000 American lives. America's land territory is going to increase by 1/3, accounting for Texas as well. And this provided a training ground for the future leaders that are going to come up in the Civil War. We're going to have Robert E. Lee, who's going to be gaining experience in the Army. We're also going to have Ulysses S. Grant. Both of these guys graduated from the new military academy at West Point. And it proved that West Point was a good place to get a fine military education. And it was a textbook campaign. There were no major blunders in this war, and it proved the American fighting force. Mexico and Latin America, however, are forever after this going to be distrustful of the Colossus to the north, the northern bully of the United States. And this is going to set bad relations with Latin America and the U.S. for years to come. Back to our focus question: to what extent was the war with Mexico justified? Think about it. Get it written down. Don't skip this time. Let's earn those points, and I will see you next time.